I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, a reoccurring guest. I find him fascinating. It's almost like taking a day off to have him on. Because I was telling my wife, I said, who do you have on today? And she's my business partner too. And I said, it's Dave Janda. She said, oh, that'll be easy. I said, oh, it's like every day's a holiday with Dave Janda, because I'm going to learn something that I didn't know before. And without any further ado, here is Dave Janda with the popular radio show Operation Freedom. He books great guests. Dave, thanks for coming on USAWatchdog.com.
Greg, thank you. And I am going to use the clip and what you just said and show it to my wife every night, because I'm afraid
that may hurt you.
My daughters would completely disagree with you. The only one who would be our dog, Molly. But other than that, I don't think any of my family would agree with what you just said. But thank you very much for that, because I will utilize it every day.
I guarantee you the people that are watching this interview will. And I want to start with the Iran no signature fraud. That's a huge fraud, because there are no signatures. And I have this letter. I decided to print it out and have it out here. This is the letter from the Kerry State Department, and it says, just so you know, wasn't signed by Iran. This is November of 2015. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, is not a treaty or an executive agreement, and is not a signed document. The JCPOA is not a signed document. Iran never signed it.
Well, first of all, congratulations on that, Greg, because you're the one who caught that, and you're the one who has been speaking about this for an extended period of time. And in fact, you have not been proven to be wrong. And in fact, my contacts that are, I believe, very reputable, I've known them for decades, they confirm the fact that your findings are, in fact, correct. And I have to give you a little shout out. The other day, Rush Limbaugh finally came around and started talking about the fact that the agreement was not signed. So there's only one source that could have come from, Greg, because you're the only person who has really been trumpeting this fact that the agreement with Iran was never signed.
And Dave, to me, it just flashes, and I'm not that smart of a guy, I got a general studies degree, but to me it just flashes fraud. It flashes fraud.
It does flash fraud. So then the question, Greg, you and I both have is, when Trump was in the decision-making process about should the agreement stand or should it go, and then decided it should go, John Kerry, post-haste, ran to Iran. And the question, Greg, that I had was, who was he representing when he did that? And what was the purpose of him going over there? So if he represented the United States in trying to salvage this agreement, right, because he was integral in this agreement being not signed but implemented, if you will, if he was representing the United States, he was not a representative of our current government. And that is a violation of what some folks have said is a violation of something called the Logan Act. That's a criminal offense. Now, let's say he says, well, I wasn't representing the United States. I was representing other players in this agreement. The United Kingdom, Germany, France. Well, if that's the case, then I'd like to see the documentation that he has registered as a foreign agent.
Oh, ding, ding, ding.
Right? The third possibility, if he wasn't representing the United States and wasn't representing these other players from Europe in the agreement, is he was representing the syndicate, the globalist syndicate, the axis that you and I have described. Look, when we speak about globalists, and you and I have dissected this before, but it's my understanding, in speaking to people that I've known behind the curtain for years, that there are different silos in the globalist network. And the silo that has been most prominent, that has, I believe, wreaked the most havoc in the world, not just our country, but around the world, has been the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis, of which the Bushes and Clinton and Obama have all been a part of. And we'll get into later about a recent report that, well, maybe actually Trump is in that silo as well. I think he might have done business with some players within that silo, but I personally don't believe that he is a agent of that silo. He might be associated with other globalists and other silos that are more intent on the United States not dissolving into mass chaos, which is what the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis would like. But if Kerry was not representing the United States, and he wasn't representing these other players in Europe, then the only other entity he could have been representing, that the reason why he flew over there in a panic, was the Syndicate. Because the Syndicate, the globalist Syndicate, was a huge player in this agreement.
Go ahead.
Then the question is, well, what was the purpose of him going there? Well, according to my contacts, they say, well, that could have been multifactorial. And one of the purposes could have been to stir up international discord against Trump about getting rid of this globalist agreement. At this point, the fake Russian dossier, the fake narrative that Trump colluded and his campaign colluded with the Russians has been blown out of the water. Now, CNN might not have come to that conclusion. MSNBC might not come to that conclusion. ABC, CBS, NBC. They'll never come to that conclusion. And the reason is because they're a tentacle of the globalist syndicate, the same globalist syndicate that was behind this agreement, that is behind much of the chaos that we see around the world. But the purpose could have been, according to my contacts, to sow more international discord. And one of the first things we saw was the leadership of Iran came out and said, hey, if this agreement goes, World War III is on the table. Well, that's right out of the Rothschild-Rockefeller globalist playbook. Utilize fear to paralyze the masses. And if it really gets rough, you can always start a war, and out of the war, and the Rothschilds have done very well with every war that's occurred in the world, you gain more power, more control, more money, and those of us that aren't part of the elite that they call, quote, useless eaters, millions of us useless eaters die in those conflicts. So all of us see war as a horrible thing. The Rothschild-Rockefeller axis see it as a great business model. So the first thing Kerry goes over there and starts saying, hey, boys, let's get some rumblings going about war, chaos, World War III.
That's treason.
And let's all dump it on Trump.
That is treason, though. That is beyond the Logan Act. That's treason.
Right, and that's my point. You see, for Kerry to go over there on behalf of the United States when he wasn't asked to do that is a violation of the Logan Act. So he was willing to risk the perception and the criminal activity of the Logan Act. The only way he would do that was because there was something even greater that he was trying to protect himself from being tarred with. Okay? And that points, I believe, to the $150 billion. Okay? That was not a wire transfer. That was pallets of cash. Now, on my website, davejanda.com.
Wait, you mean the whole, hold on, I gotta come back. You mean the whole $150 billion was delivered in paper cash?
There were pallets full of cash. And whether all of it was cash, but it appears that at least the majority of it was cash, if not the entirety.
Well, I heard it was only 1.8 billion, and I'm not trying to question you, but I just want to make sure I get this fact right. I heard it was 1.7 or 1.8 billion in cash, and you're saying that it was way more than that.
That's my understanding.
Wow, from your sources.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about C-130s of cash.
We're talking about pallets, many palletfuls of cash.
Whoa.
Now, here's the deal, Greg, is that if you go to my website, davejanda.com, we did an interview with a friend of mine, and his name is Bob Mazur. He's a former DEA agent that went undercover, brought down Pablo Escobar, the Medellin drug cartel, and brought down the BCCI bank, okay, and was in the process of taking down many other banks. Now, I asked Bob about this situation. He goes, I think Kerry went over there because this is the only achievement that these guys really had their arms wrapped around internationally. And he was just trying to save his legacy and the Obama administration's legacy. But he said, there is a problem, though, with the cash. He goes, I don't understand why it didn't happen, all of it, with a wire transfer. He goes, because when you give cash in a deal to a country, the cash always gets lighter. By that I mean it gets shifted around to different people.
Oh, there we go. And
Okay.
okay, so I wanted to find out who got paid, and I know I suspect they got paid. Go ahead.
This part is not from, but Bob was concerned that the cash got lighter.
Everybody took a cut, in other words.
Yeah. So I spoke to my other contacts behind the curtain about this stuff and said, hey, look, the cash part of this. They said, yeah. And according to my contacts, it's more than the 1.5 billion that folks have been speaking about. Okay? Significantly more. And that my contacts are convinced that some of that cash ended up being filtered back to Obama, the Clinton Foundation, Kerry himself, not through Kerry, but through accounts through his wife, Teresa, to Soros, to European leaders, which makes it understandable why Merkel all of a sudden came jetting over to talk to Trump around the Iranian deal, and why Macron came over. Not that he was part of that deal, but Macron had another relationship. Macron worked for the Rothschilds in their banking system for years. And some of this cash also was laundered, brought through the banking syndicate, of which the Rothschilds are huge players. My contacts also said...
Stop, hold on a minute. Hold on. I got to breathe this in a little bit. You're telling me that these people got paid in cash. Make it rain, you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That is treason and fraud in every Western country. There is no question about it. These people are all up for treason. Merkel, Hollande, who was before that? Cameron. All their administrations and people in their administrations, Obama, Clinton, Kerry, they're all up for treason and fraud, is what you're telling me.
Based on the information I've received, yes. And the question I have for the Obama administration is that if all these people that are telling me this are wrong, why was there $1, 1 cent delivered in cash? Let alone the 1.5, 1.8 greater, according to my contacts, significantly greater than that.
You're talking hundreds of billions of dollars.
Any cash in the deal?
You're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. You're talking 50 billion, 100 billion. You're talking lots and lots of money, untraceable money.
We're talking billions of untraceable amounts of money. Correct. Yeah. So, Greg, from the very beginning, you said two things. From the very beginning of all this, you said, one, the deal was not signed, and people hit you with you're a conspiracy theorist. Okay.
I got crap for it.
No, you were just correct. And the second thing, Greg, you said from the very beginning was this is a money laundering operation.
Yeah, fraud.
According to my contacts, you were absolutely correct on it not being signed. And number two, you were absolutely correct on this being a money laundering operation, in particular, the cash component of it. Now, there's another part to this that I was unaware of, but my contacts are very adamant about this, that there was a deal within a deal in this Iranian deal. And the deal within the deal actually focuses on the drug trade. And my contact said the purposes of Kerry running over there were to try to cement international opinion against Trump because the Russian fake dossier, the Russian collusion thing wasn't working. Two, to try to cover their tracks on the cash and how it was distributed and how it was handed out. And number three, it was meant to ensure that the relationship and the deal within the deal was maintained. Now, here's the relationship as I'm told. When Trump took office, one of the first countries he started speaking against was Colombia in South America. Known for what? Its drug trade. And the word I hear is that the Trump administration mobilized forces against the production facilities in Colombia, a number of other South American countries, and Central American countries, and Mexico as it relates to the production of the drug trade. The drug trade needed a source for their supply, and Iran filled that void.
Oh, boy.
And according to my sources, one of the reasons why they believe Kerry went over there was to ensure that that deal within the deal would continue. So when we talk about and this is why when you mentioned about a lot more money than the 1.5 or 1.8 billion in cash, the way the drug trade does business, right, is in cash. So according to my sources, this deal within the deal with Iran, it was a deal that kept spitting out more and more money because of this drug pipeline between Iran, South America, Central America, and Mexico. And one of my sources, who tells me some things, and at the time they tell me, over the years, I question it, because it always seems to be a little bit over the top. Every time this source has told me something that I felt it was something over the top, it's always come out months, sometimes a year or two later, to be actually accurate and on the money. And this source told me in particular about this deal within the deal. And he also told me while Kerry, if you will, the left hand, was publicly meeting with Iran and its representatives, at the same time, Obama reportedly, according to my source, took a little quick trip to Colombia to speak with the people on the other end of the deal within the deal. So I think Kerry, when you add it all up, might have gone over there to preserve the legacy of himself as Secretary of State and the Obama administration over their, quote, one accomplishment internationally. But also, I believe, according to my contacts, and I have every reason to believe them, he went over there to, if you will, make sure any loose ends about the cash were taken care of, covered up, and also to ensure that the deal within the deal, the pipeline of drugs, would continue. And that's what I've been told.
Are these guys going to get prosecuted? I mean, is this part of the swamp, part of the takedown of the Trump administration? And incidentally, Trump didn't bring it up in his speech when he talked about it. He said it was a terrible, misguided. I mean, I don't know if he used the word fraud, but I think he implied it. Is that one of the things that told him, oh, we're done with this, I'm getting out of this? Is that one of the things that got him out of it? There was really no signatures? I mean, Pompeo could tell him that. Pompeo is the Secretary of State.
Well, that's who
the letter was to. Pompeo said, it was never signed.
That letter you showed earlier in our interview, tell me if I'm wrong, but that letter was a letter sent by the Obama administration representative to Pompeo when he was in congressman, correct?
Correct. He was the only one that said, "Hey, let's see the signatures."
So I am sure, one thing about Trump, you can love him, you can hate him, but the guy has huge networks of communication on information that most of us, all of us, are not privy to. So I don't think when Pompeo interviewed for director of the CIA, he came in and say, "Hey, President Trump, guess what? That Iran deal wasn't signed."
He already knew it.
No, he knew it. He knew it long before that, which could be the reason why he appointed Pompeo initially as the director of the CIA and then moved him to Secretary of State. So Trump, I believe, knew, because all he says is it was the worst deal ever, right?
Yeah.
It was a deal that harms America.
Yep.
Well, if Trump was aware that folks were getting kickbacks out of this deal, essentially taxpayer money, right? That hurts every American. But also, what also hurts every American? If Trump was aware that there was a deal within a deal, and it involved the drug trade, drugs that eventually made it back into our society. Trump has been very upfront about taking on the opioid issue. He's a guy, I can tell you that this is not marketing about, Donald Trump doesn't drink, doesn't take drugs, doesn't smoke. People I know who know him very well for many years say he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he drugs, forget about it. And so Trump has this aversion, absolute aversion to the drug trade. And he has taken it on. And that's actually spilled over from the illicit drug trade to taking on, maybe not as hard as some people like, but he has taken on some folks in the pharmaceutical industry. So the bottom line here is that when Trump comes out and says this deal harms America, I don't think that's an overstatement. I don't. And Greg, there are some very, very articulate, intelligent people saying, look, the problem with what Trump did is it makes it so that the United States will never be trusted with here's the operative word, signed agreement. Greg, the agreement was never signed.
That's right.
Okay. And as opposed to what these people are saying, they don't realize the agreement wasn't signed. We are seen in the world's eyes as being bigger saps to go along with an agreement that was never signed, never read by anybody outside of the Obama administration, than Trump saying, guess what? This is a bogus deal. It's a bad deal. It's not going to happen. Guess what? Sanctions are back in place, and we can talk about a better deal. We can talk about, and think about this, Greg. Maybe the better deal is this. Number one, tell us where all the cash went.
To the Iranians, because the Iranians, they have to be saying, you got our billions, you took our money, and now 3 years later, we're back with sanctions. We're back to where we were before, and you all are fat and happy and got paid off. And the Iranians have to feel awful screwed right now.
So maybe the better deal, as Trump describes it, this is why the globalists and their puppets were so panicked.
Oh, panicked.
This is why Kerry ran to the Iranians and why Obama ran to Colombia. Because it could be that Trump's better deal is, look, you're going to tell us what happened to this cash, okay, number one. Number two, we're going to have a better inspection process. Okay, part of this agreement reportedly was about public access to their nuclear facilities that were in the not in military installations. Well, guess what? This time it's going to be even open to military installations where we're looking. And here's the other part of the deal. I know about the deal within the deal. This whole deal you have going with the drug thing, that's going to stop. You understand me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is in fact a better deal. And when it's all said and done, everybody's going to sign this thing. You got it? It's not going to be one signing and somebody not. Everybody's going to sign it.
This is going to expose our allies for treason, fraud. I mean, ripoffs. It's going to expose them all. It's going to expose them. Everybody in the West in this deal. I mean, Russia's not in any kind of jeopardy, and China's not in any kind of jeopardy.
And you know what though? And here's the thing, Greg. Trump does deals, and we can get into this video that just came out about Trump being a agent of the Rothschilds.
I got other stuff to cover first, though.
Well, Trump does deals. If you're in business, I don't care who you are, you're going to do deals with people who you'd rather not do deals with. Okay, and it could be that when Trump does this new Iran deal, he said, "Now here's the bottom line. Here's how I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, Iran and Britain and Germany and France and us. Is anybody starts cheating on this deal, if I get any wind that drug trade is reestablished, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let it out of who got paid off in this first Iran deal, who siphoned off cash, and who was knowledgeable about the drug deal within a deal." And that could be the way in which Trump holds all their feet to the fire, that Iran will go along with the inspections, not just in their nuclear power facilities, but also in their military facilities. And it could also be how he, if you will, blows apart this deal within the deal.
And then again, he could just come in and say, you know what, you're not going to play nice anyway, so I'm going to expose you all. That may happen too.
That may happen too. But when Trump does deals, they're leverage based. And it's not when he does a deal, in researching him and reading about him, my dad was in the construction industry. He had some brief interactions with Trump, all actually positive. Trump utilizes leverage, not just in the short-term part of the deal, but in implementation of the deal and also in the longevity of the deal. So maybe there'll be one or two sacrificial lambs that get it in the neck. But my guess is that he will utilize leverage over the long term to get all the players, not only at the table, but to make sure that the deal has legs, longevity, and benefits everybody.
Let's move on to the next subject. He is going to go after the deep state. I mean, obviously, but in order to do that, I've said this for a while, and other people have too. They got to clean up the FBI and DOJ. It's a mammoth task to go after these guys. They're making good progress with the clean out of the FBI and DOJ. And is Jeff Sessions really still a good guy, even though that Nunez wants to hold him up, and people in Congress want to give him contempt of Congress charges and things like that? Is he cleaning out the FBI and DOJ, and is Sessions still a good guy?
So many people will disagree with me on this, and this is something that I speak to my contacts on a very regular basis about, because many people have soured on Sessions. Many people have soured on Sessions for a long period of time. The bottom line is that the information I've been given is that Sessions continues to work with the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz. Sessions continues to work with other players. Now, remember that Horowitz is not a lone figure. There are 450 investigators working with Horowitz. So he has a whole army with him. But in addition to this prosecutor, that Sessions had been working with for months out of Utah. Huber, I believe his name is. He did fess up and say, yeah, by the way, we've had this prosecutor in Utah that's also been looking into many other things on the prosecution side. And right now, if you look at the FBI and Department of Justice, I did a little tally. And, since Horowitz handed over his Inspector General report to Congress, 3 congressional committees, January 12, 2018, here's what's happened. We already knew Comey had been fired last May by the head of the FBI by Trump. But since Horowitz has handed over his report, Deputy Director McCabe, fired. James Baker, who was an FBI legal counsel, removed. He supposedly quit. My sources say he was, in fact, fired. The FBI investigative agent Peter, I love to call him Strazek because it's Strzok, but was reassigned. Deputy Special Counsel to McCabe, Lisa Page, Strzok's main squeeze, was reassigned. She quit. Again, my sources tell me she was fired. Department of Justice Deputy Assistant Attorney General Bruce Orr has been demoted twice. Add to that, FBI Communications Director Mike Cortan, he quit. Director Comey's Chief of Staff, Jim Rubicki, quit. Department of Justice Mary McCord, quit. Department of Justice Deputy Attorney General David Loffman, quit. Add to that the fact that how many congressmen and senators have decided, I resign or I'm not running for re-election. Okay? Trump has been criticized that he's not draining the swamp. And it's really not a swamp, it's a septic tank. Okay? And what he's doing is he emptying the septic tank fast enough? Not for anybody. I don't even think for him. It's not, because the sooner he gets rid of the deep state, these globalist syndicate players, frankly, the better life I think his life will be. And I think he sees it that way as well. So is he draining the septic tank? Yeah, I believe he is. And it's indication. I believe there's going to be more to come. But
it's a mammoth job. People don't realize it's thousands of people.
It's a huge job. And the word I hear is behind the curtain that Sessions is working with the Inspector General, with his 450-member team, with this prosecutor Huber, and they are in the process of bringing the house of cards down. Now, go back to that interview I did on the top of our webpage, davejanda.com, with Bob Mazur. Bob infiltrated the Medellin drug cartel, as I said, brought down Pablo Escobar, brought down BCCI Bank, brought down the Medellin drug cartel. But what Bob said is that, Dave, when you deal with an organization that's deep, it takes much longer, because if you really want to get to the head of the snake, you have to get through so many of these underlings that are also compromised. You got to flip them, or you have to imprison them, or you have to whatever. But he goes, it takes a long time, longer than you could ever imagine, to bring down a huge. It's not a house of cards. It's a superstructure
of cards
that's been in place for decades.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, it takes a lot longer than any of us would like. But I believe Sessions is playing on the team. I think some of this discord with Sessions is almost like a World Wrestling Entertainment event, right? With some of this kind of fake blood and fake impacts and the like.
So you think the trying to hold him up for trying to hold Sessions in contempt of Congress? They're not going to do that. That's Nunez is in on the deal.
I think he is. I think it's some of the
to throw them off balance.
I think it's some of the distraction. I think what it does is it cements in the public's mind, hey, wait a minute. Let's say in 2 weeks Sessions decides to unrecuse himself. Okay? Let's say Sessions decides to.
Do you think that's coming?
Or prosecute a number of individuals.
Do you think that's coming? He's going to unrecuse himself?
It could well be. But I do believe the heavy lifting is going to be done by Horowitz, who's an Obama appointee. And the reason is it's harder to blow out Horowitz's work as an Obama appointee as opposed to Sessions, who's always been a strong advocate for Trump. All of this mixing it up and, hey, he's not doing his job, and hey, well, maybe contempt of Congress. That doesn't play the narrative that, hey, Trump Sessions is doing the dirty work for Trump, does it?
Yeah, and Mueller, let's get into Mueller real quick. He's had a terrible couple of weeks. He looks like a buffoon. I mean, the judge saying that you're really just trying to take him down. You're really just, you don't care about Manafort. You really want to try. I mean, I think the judge actually said, you want to unseat this president. You want to impeach this president. And then the cartoon characters that Mueller thought he indicted, the Russians, one of them popped up off the page and said, "Oh, really? We want discovery." And another judge was like, "Oh, yeah, bring it out now. You're not going to get any time. Bring it on." So Mueller's gotten some ferocious beatdowns in court, and his team.
I've gotten a lot of criticism for this position as well. The day before Mueller, I call him Mueller, was appointed special counsel, he had a 4-hour meeting with Trump. Now, reportedly, that was because Mueller was interviewing to be the FBI director again. Well, it's my understanding from my sources, there's a statute that says once you've been the FBI director and leave, you can't be reappointed to be FBI director for a second go-around. So then, why was Trump meeting with him? I believe, and I've gotten a lot of criticism for this.
You have sources too, though.
This is what I've heard from, again, my sources, that Mueller in that meeting was flipped by Trump. And this Mueller...
Because of the treason of the Iranian One deal and the payoffs and the real collusion and all that, he committed treason. There's no statute of limitations.
He was a dirty cop.
Yeah.
And Trump utilized that to flip him. And this entire Mueller investigation has been, if you will, a diversion from the real investigation. Trump says things, and people sometimes laugh at him or make fun of him, and this kind of thing. What has Trump? Maybe I'll be proven wrong on this, but what has Trump been saying? The Mueller investigation
is a witch hunt.
Is a witch hunt. Wait a minute. Did Trump describe himself as a witch? No. But he would describe Hillary as a witch, wouldn't he? You see, I believe he's giving you an indication what this is really about in plain sight. It's a witch hunt. And I believe one of the people that's going to come down in this situation, when it's all said and done, is the Clinton Foundation, Hillary and Bill Clinton, and even possibly Chelsea.
How about Obama? They're going to go after Obama too. I mean, he's got his own foundation. He got paid off out of according to I think they all got paid. And your sources say they all got paid in their foundations, cash, however they got it. Obama's got a foundation. Kerry, his family has a foundation. The Clintons, slush funds. They all got paid, and I'm sure all the people over in Europe got paid as well. So they're all going to go down, right? I mean, he's going to not only just cut the head off, but he's going to chop the body up too, isn't he?
Well, I think Obama is one of the players in the syndicate, and I believe Obama made many, many mistakes, including the violation of criminal acts, including the violation of the Espionage Act, and also was involved in trying to unseat a duly elected president of the United States, that being Trump.
And you think he's going down? I mean, he's going to get charged.
I do believe that's going to be the case.
He's going to have to.
And many people think that that's wrong, that that's hopium, that that's pie in the sky. I get it. I understand that. I understand where those folks are coming from. But I do believe that the only way our country is truly saved is by reinstitution of the rule of law. And I believe that is what is the core of what the Inspector General's report is about. And if you're going to reestablish the rule of law, that means all the players that have violated the law over time be taken down.
That would mean that the Rockefellers, that the Rothschilds, a lot of people in the Council on Foreign Relations, that evil construct, anti-American construct. I mean, a lot of those people are going to go down, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I believe so when it's all said and done.
The top people.
Yeah.
And Obama's not one of the top people. He's
no. I consider, and Obama's and the Bushes and the Clintons and the Soroses middle-level managers.
And they're all going down.
I believe they are all targets of what's going to come down. Yes. And Greg, I know we're running short on time, but I want to, if it's possible, and you and I have talked about this, and I want to address this because I think it's really important. There's some information out there that Donald Trump is an agent of the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis.
This has been going on since before he was elected.
Yes.
And what tells me, which is bizarre, and we talked about this in the pre-interview, was that if you look at the stuff that the Rockefellers were for, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Iran deal, the Paris Climate Fraudulent Accord, Obamacare, he's all against all that, Second Amendment, and they must be pissed at him if he's part of their cabal.
Well, right, exactly. I mean, the last guy who kind of took on the Syndicate like that took a really nasty car ride in Dallas in November 1963, and we all know what happened to him. So you're absolutely right, Greg. And there's a video out there that says, well, he had loans or took loans from the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, or in particular the Rothschilds. And you know what? I think that video is presented with really good research. The facts I don't disagree with. I ran it by a number of my contacts who don't disagree with the facts that were presented. Where I have an issue, and where my contacts also had an issue, is from going from the facts to the inferences to the conclusions that this individual and the organization made, I don't think are legit. And the reason I say that is because when I look at the Trump administration, there are players in the Trump administration. I'm like, what is he doing? These are known globalists. McMaster, Gary Cohn, former from Goldman Sachs, Mnuchin from Goldman Sachs, Wilbur Ross, a big-time Rothschild banker. What are these folks doing there? And when I talk to my contacts about this is what they say. And these are contacts that have fought against the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis for decades. They said, look, Dave, just because these people are sitting at the table, kind of goes with Lincoln's philosophy, hold your friends close and your enemies closer. Just because they're at the table doesn't mean they're the ones dealing the cards. And it doesn't mean they're the ones who own the house. Okay? So, and I take my own experience, Greg. As an orthopedic surgeon, I was an orthopedic surgeon for 27 years. I took care of many members of the mafia, operated on them, took care of them. They, just as any patient, paid me for me to take care of them. Now, because I did a business transaction with members of the mafia, does that make me a member of the mafia? I don't consider myself a member of the mafia. I don't think they do either. I also took care of one of the most notorious, horrendous members of many members of a motorcycle gang that's known for murder, prostitution, numbers running, you name it, drug trade. Because I took care of them, does that mean that I'm a member of that horrendous motorcycle gang?
They just came into the hospital where they needed care, and you fixed them.
Right. But then after a while, after I took care of one or two of these folks, they said, hey, that guy does a really good job taking, you know what? If next time, whatever, if Fuzzy here gets hurt, guess what? I'm going to have Janda take care of him. So, but the point is that what this person does in the video is says, well, Trump has this banking relationship with these people, certain loans and the like. And because he has these certain loan agreements, that means he's owned by them. And as you said, Greg, if Trump is really owned by them, the positions Trump has taken, I made a quick list.
Good.
On these issues are completely divergent from the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis. Now, by way of foundation, you and I have both spoken about the fact that my contacts have said, look, you know what, nobody's lily white. Trump does have some ties into the globalists, but not the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis, a different silo, if you will, that's more intent on America doing well and not imploding as the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis is about. So here's a list of the illegal immigration, the positions Trump has taken against the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis. Illegal immigration, you mentioned Paris Climate Accord, TPP, the Obamacare and its regulations, the North Korea Peace Initiative. I think the Rothschilds are all about war. Well, how does the peace thing fit in, right? Trump's going after the human trafficking and pedophile networks. Trump's going after the drug cartels. A purge, as we mentioned, of a number of people that were deep state players that played along with the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis and the FBI and the Department of Justice. We already listed them. The fact that Trump went against the Iran deal, which was a Rothschild-Rockefeller axis agreement, if you will. ISIS. This individual in the video said, well, Trump is supporting ISIS. Well, wait a minute. If we do an assessment of the strength, and I've asked my military buddies behind the curtain, if you do an assessment of ISIS before Trump was president and now, are they as strong? Oh, no. They're drastically diminished. Are they completely gone? Not quite yet, but they're drastically diminished. Well, ISIS, as we know from General Flynn, which is why they had why the globalists went after Flynn to begin with. When Flynn was director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, he was the one who came out and said, listen, ISIS is weaponized, funded, trained, weaponized by the United States, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and Israel. Okay?
Damn.
So Trump, why would he appoint his first director of national intelligence, General Flynn, if he's truly in the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis? Then we had Uranium One. Trump is blowing that apart. That was a Rothschild-Rockefeller initiation. Trump's position on Planned Parenthood, on the Second Amendment, on praising Julian Assange, on taking down the media, taking down Hollywood. These are all tentacles of the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis. So when you add all of this up, Greg, you know, there's no doubt about it. Trump, when he was doing his Resorts International deal, you know, and this individual claims, well, you know, Trump bought 93% of Resorts International, and there were some bad players there to begin with, and he bought into that. Well, wait a minute. If you're truly in the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis, you don't buy into anything. You're gifted it. You want an example of that? Look at Jeffrey Epstein. Supposedly a billionaire. I have one person tell you how Jeffrey Epstein made his $1 billion. It was a front. It was given to him so that he would entrap politicians into this whole pedophile human networking thing so they could be bribed and blackmailed. Okay?
That's what the whole island's all about.
The Rothschilds give it to you and suck you in, and then you're part of it. Trump bought that 93% stake in Resort International. And frankly, when my dad, who's in the construction industry, said, listen, there's two ways to do business in the construction industry. There's the way I do it, where you try to keep your debt as minimal as possible. Or you can do business the way Trump does it. And what he does is he goes into huge debt, huge leverage. He makes it so that the bankers he's dealing with can't afford for him to go broke. Because if he goes broke, they go broke.
They're partners.
So what this individual says in the video is, well, you know, when Resorts International went down and Trump was involved with these folks, that they helped bail him out. I think that's true. And the reason is because that the whole business model that Trump created, to be to have so much debt accumulated that if something goes down, they gotta help bail you out. Because if you go down, it sets off the dominoes and they go down.
I just want to end with
one other thing, Greg.
Okay.
I could also be accused of being an agent for the Rothschilds. And here's why. Here's why. I
Federal Reserve note.
use this to buy items, and it says on the Federal Reserve note. Who's the Federal Reserve? It's the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Lazards, Seas, Warbers, Pinkuses, the owners of the Federal Reserve, the central banking system. This is a debt, DEBT instrument. Every time we used money, this, or whatever the heck this is, paper, stuff not backed by anything, every time we use this, we're doing business with the globalists, with the Rothschilds. So just as I did business taking care of people as a surgeon, doesn't mean I was a part of the mafia or part of the motorcycle gang involved in the drug trade and prostitution, all that stuff. And just as when I use this, I'm not a member of the Rothschilds. The bottom line is that when you do business, sometimes you do business with people you don't want to do business with, but you have to.
Especially
if Trump wasn't involved with those bankers and them bailing his organization out, thousands of people would have lost their jobs. Thousands of families would have been in big trouble. His own family would have been in big trouble. His investors would have been in big trouble, and his reputation would have been shot. Look, my dad built big buildings. So did Donald Trump. Okay, my dad said there's two types of people in the construction industry: people that want to build their bank account and rip off their clients, and people that want to build a legacy. And the way you build a legacy in the construction industry is you build structures that last. My dad, who was as honest as they come, wasn't in that first category, he was in the second. And when he passed, the Chicago Tribune had a dedication to him about, if you look at the skyline of Chicago, Ben Janda had a big part of that, because he built buildings that lasted, that he built a legacy. And my dad, who was a real harsh critic of people in the construction industry, said the same thing about Donald Trump. He builds a legacy.
Ah. Good.
So I commend the person that did the video recently. I think they did great fact research. I think they did great background research. But I believe the inferences and the conclusions they came to, I believe, are not supportive based on the track record that he has already accumulated when it comes to his divergence of the policies and taking on the policies of the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis. But that doesn't mean he didn't do business with them, and that doesn't mean he didn't do business with other silos of the globalist network.
The blue wave, I want to get into this too. We've been told, the blue wave, the Democrats could take over the House. Well, the blue wave fizzled. It was a fizzle wave. It's looking like the voter fraud. I want to get into that. Give us some good news about the voter fraud. He's at war with his DHS secretary again, Donald Trump. I don't know if she's going to be around for long, but she doesn't want to do what he wants to do. She works at the pleasure of the president. Part of the voter fraud is the wave of these illegal immigrants and all this, and this voter fraud, election fraud, as Project Veritas showed with Bob Kramer going to the White House and having meetings with Obama and that got him on camera saying they need to cheat in the 2016 election. So are they going to come down on the election fraud? Is there some good news here for America coming up?
I think you're going to see the voter fraud issue become more front and center as the weeks and months progress. My hope was that by the beginning of May, that we would already have some hard facts to present that are even reaching through the bought-off lamestream fake media about what really occurred in the 2016 election cycle, and possibly even before. You're right. He has an individual, the head of Department of Homeland Security, who apparently doesn't want to push forward the data that's been gathered already in the Department of Homeland Security. That's either one of two reasons, Greg. It's either she's playing rope-a-dope like Sessions, and it's kind of like, well, I don't want to put this forward. I don't want to. Well, okay, if you're going to drag it out of me, oh, well, okay. as opposed to, oh, here you go, Mr. President, and oh, here you go, public, and everybody go, well, she's just part of the syndicate. She's part of the Trump organization. What? Come on, give me a break. We can't trust this
So you
stuff.
think this is rope-a-dope again? Rope-a-dope
It
too?
could be, it could be, or it could be, that she has some ties, just as we mentioned with Cohen and McMaster and Wilbur Ross and Mnuchin, to the globalist syndicate. And they're pulling her strings. And so here's the bottom line. If you see her fired really soon, you'll know where her bread was getting buttered.
But no matter what, it's coming out.
What? Yeah,
no matter what.
I believe it will. I believe it will be well ahead of the midterms, because there have to be some preventive measures put in place before the midterms.
So it's coming.
I believe it is.
And your sources say that.
Yes.
They has to. They can't let people cheat. The economy. Just a quick one here. We're going on to an hour, but I think people will find this interesting because I sure do. The economy, wow, the bond market, they're buying bonds like crazy. They're holding the rates at 3%. Is Trump going to be able to, are they going to be able to hold this together at least through the midterms and beyond? I mean, they got to be talking about some kind of a reset somewhere along the line. We got this 20 trillion deficit and a 21 trillion alone that got run through DOD and HUD. And they don't know where it is and missing. So it's 40-something trillion just in those two spots. Are we going to get a big currency reset, do you think? Is your sources talking about that, or are they going to try to stave that off?
Well, in Operation Freedom on our radio show and at DaveJanda.com, we bring a lot of folks in the financial world that you're not going to see on Fox Business News or Reuters or Bloomberg or CNBS, as I call them. And they say that a reset is going to occur, and they believe sooner rather than later.
When?
Now, how soon that is, I don't have an answer for you.
Not before the midterm.
I think anybody that tries to play that game right now, I think is going to look foolish, because frankly, this has gone on longer than I would have anticipated, and I know many of my sources anticipated.
Mine too.
And it's a testament to the financial power, if you will, of the globalist syndicate, that they can keep this going. But notice what the globalist syndicate has been doing. You've been seeing JP Morgan Chase and the banking industry, Goldman Sachs and the like, taking huge deliveries of gold and silver, enormous. You've seen Russia and China and India all doing the same thing. You've seen China institute something called the Petro-Yuan contract where you no longer have to buy oil just in U.S. dollars, but you can buy them in yuan, and then you can flip that contract into gold. So you're seeing countries move away from the dollar. You're seeing countries ask for their gold back from Turkey of late, Germany prior. We want our gold back. We want to domicile it. We don't want it to be left over there where it could be confiscated. So we see people moving to entities such as gold and silver, which has been used for over 5,000 years as the true value of money, of wealth. So we're seeing this happen. We're seeing these contracts going to place. We're seeing people move away from the dollar. We've even had Donald Trump a couple weeks ago saying, I think there's some big financial problems coming. And people have to realize that the market you might get hit here, but when it's all said and done, things are going to be better. I mean, Trump came out and said that.
So are we going to get away from the Federal Reserve note, or are we going to have a reevaluation of gold? Are they going to do we still have any gold left in America, or is it all deep storage in the mines?
Well, there are a number of people that have launched opinions on this.
What's it going to? I guess what I should say is, what's the reset going to look like? I'm sorry, forgive me.
Well, I think what the reset's going to look like is a devaluation of the dollar to a significant degree, and I believe that we might have, and folks have gone on record as saying this. A number of folks, actually, not just behind the curtain, but publicly, that there might be two different types of dollar, one that's used in international markets and international trade, and one that's used domestically. That the value of gold the value of gold and silver will be reset to a much higher level. And possibly you're going to see countries such as China or Russia back their currency with gold and or silver. There's some folks that have said even the United States might do that. But to do that, you have to have the physical supply, in particular what we're talking about, of gold. I don't know. Last I checked, the United States government had very little supply of silver. When it comes to gold, reportedly we have 8,300 tons of gold. On the other hand, it hasn't been audited since what, 1953? And if you have an asset that is so important, why wouldn't you have it audited, assayed every year? Every year. They say, well, the cost of doing that is significant. Okay, what is it? Is it 10 million bucks? 10 million bucks is not even haircut money in the way our politicians spend money. So the fact that we don't audit our gold on a regular basis, let alone haven't audited it since 1953, makes me wonder about its existence. So I do believe a reset's going to occur. I believe the value of the dollar is going to plummet. I believe it's going to be very inflationary here in the United States. I make those statements, not just, I have one of my degrees in college, one of the degrees I obtained was an economics degree in addition to chemistry, but I really rely on people that have a long-standing history in economics and in financial matters. And many of the people that you bring here to your forum, to your platform, are very similar folks that I bring to my forum and my platform. And they are very smart people who have done this for a living their entire lives. And they say, look, there's something big and bad coming, and it's going to be hyperinflationary, significant inflation here in the United States. It's going to be a devaluation of the dollar, and people need to protect themselves.
You don't know when, though. It certainly won't be before the midterms, right?
Greg, it might be. Why else would Trump put on the table, look, there's going to be a market, there's going to be some problems in the market, and there's going to be, because no matter how much these banksters try to manipulate markets, they can only do it for so long. The market always wins. I don't know of a manipulation that has occurred that lasted forever. And frankly, this manipulation is very long in the tooth already. And when I start seeing sovereign entities, Russia, China, India, and then you look at the criminal elements, if you will, the J.P. Morgan Chases and the Goldman Sachs, the banksters of the world, accumulating huge amounts of gold and silver for their own vaults. It tells me that this event is going to happen sooner rather than later.
And we are going to leave it there. Just leave us with one good thing. Just one good thing here. The good guys are going to win, are they not? Are the good guys in control?
You know what? I do believe that we are in the process of going through very historic times. And people many decades from now are going to look at this time and saying, wow, look at that reset that occurred. I do believe, Greg, when this is all said and done, and it's not just based on one guy, Donald Trump. No, there are hundreds and hundreds of people in the government behind the curtain that are working for freedom, for liberty, and for the restitution of the rule of law. And they have been very much in the minority over the decades, but they do have, if you will, power, strength now because of what's happening in the executive branch. I believe Trump is supported by the military. That's what's protecting him. I do believe that he is intent on, if you will, resetting the system. But I believe his intent is when the reset of the system occurs, that it's not a catastrophic event. That doesn't mean we won't have tough times for weeks or months or hopefully not several years. But when we get on the other side of this tunnel, I believe the rule of law will be restored, and I believe all of our lives will be much better, and I believe we'll have more opportunities that we can even imagine, and we're going to look back on these decades before and say, my God, we were so oppressed. We were so persecuted by this criminal syndicate that was stripping of us our freedoms, our liberties, our finances across the board. We're going to say, how did we not do this sooner? How did we not overturn the system sooner? Because it was so bad then and it's so good now. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be some tough times in the middle here.
Dave Janda, the radio show, Operation Freedom, the website, davejanda.com. You can find his website. Very easy, Dave Janda, Janda, the Manda. Dave Janda, sorry, I'm making a joke, but I'm not making a joke about you. I really like you a lot. Anyway, davejanda.com is the website. You can find Operation Freedom there. Dave Janda, thanks for sharing your intellect and your sources with us. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
I thank you, Greg, for everything you do, and I thank you for everything you do at usawatchdog.com. I know you take a lot of heat for putting out information that the fake media will never touch, and you are accused of many things, but the bottom line is, Greg, you are all about the truth and honesty and doing what's right for people, and I thank you for being there. You serve a very, very valuable service for our country and, frankly, the world.
Dave Janda, thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it. DaveJanda.com is the website. Thank you for joining us on USAWatchdog.com.